Hey everyone, it's Blake, and welcome in to the 411 on Wrestling Podcast. On today's episode of the podcast, we welcome back our friend Steve Cook, who joins to talk about a lot of different things in the world of professional wrestling. We jumped around from a lot of different stuff that's happening right now in wrestling, whether it's WWE, Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, AEW, on and on and on. We touched on a lot of different things, including who shot Johnny Bravo in Impact Wrestling. What is the WWE Survivor Series card looking like, and what are some of the things that we look at with that card that stand out for us? Also, AEW Full Gear, that card has been announced, a very stacked card for AEW. So some thoughts on AEW. Thunder Rosa, who has been a hot topic on social media and the rumor mill here as of late in terms of her future in wrestling and many other things. So we jumped around to a lot, a fun and very entertaining discussion with Steve, as always, and hopefully you get a little laughter out of it along the way. So let's go ahead and jump into the discussion with the one and only Steve Cook. All right, as promised, our guest today is the one and only Steve Cook, who was coming fresh off of an appearance on Dissecting Dynamite, which, if you're an AEW fan, hopefully you got a chance to check that out on the 411 Mania YouTube channel. Steve, great to have you back, and the one question I'm going to ask you, we're leading off here with the big question of the week, and that is, who shot John E. Bravo?
That is the $64,000 question. The mystery that has driven wrestling fans wild for the past couple of days. And I'm going to start off with a plug for myself already, because I'm plugging an article I did over on thechairshot.com where I broke down who I thought the top 5 suspects were. And I'm just going to tell you right now that my number one choice, who I think shot Johnny Bravo, it's, if you go back through the annals of time, if you go back through sports entertainment history, we've had different mysteries, right? We've had different storylines wondering who did what or who was this mystery person. And 2 of the most important ones in recent years involve the illegitimate son of Vince McMahon and also the anonymous Raw general manager. And I believe the answer to those 2 questions is the same answer here. I'm telling you right now, I'm calling it. I think Swoggle shot Johnny Bravo.
Oh, that would be great. And of course, I had to pull this article up while you were talking about it, because I wanted to see these top 5 here. So we're not going to give them all away, though. I want people to read it, so we're not going to give them all away. But you do have Swoggle as number 1. You have Rosemary at number 2. So those are the top 2. We won't give away all 5, but I guess we did give away the biggest ones. But that's an interesting thought. So.
And Rosemary, Rosemary's an interesting option, because if you watched her during the whole thing breaking down, she looked pretty chill about the whole thing. She looked very chill. She did not look like she had a problem in the road. And I also picked up on the fact that while Father James Mitchell was doing a spiel, doing the wedding stuff, he mentioned a couple times about how Johnny Bravo had virginal blood. And virginal blood is something that a lot of people in Impact Wrestling can use. And quite frankly, I think that Rosemary's interest in Johnny Bravo is not true love. In fact, it is for his virginal blood, which you can use for a number of things.
Well, that's very true. And so I like those 2. I think when you can break it down, like, they seem to be the 2 that you would look at. I think the Rosemary one's very interesting. Like you said, watching it, you look back and you see some of those kind of shots, and you're like, maybe she's not as upset as one would be when you're seeing this guy go down and get shot. But James Mitchell, as always, he's great. So that was he's just.
They made sure to do the whole first verse of his theme song, which you always have to do when he comes out, because one of the great theme songs in old school TNA history.
I love him. He's just great. But that was quite a wedding for sure. And again, we keep saying this, and I feel like we talked about this last time you were on, but Impact Wrestling, man, I don't think that I think people are picking up on it, and maybe have over the, that build up to Bound for Glory and stuff. You always have maybe some casual fans that come in just excited for that event each year. But I don't know. I think it's been very entertaining to watch what they've done here over the past little while. I just think they've done a pretty good job.
Well, the thing is, and I noticed too, with the whole Who Shot Bravo storyline, there's going to be 2 schools of thought on this. I mean, some people will be like you and I, will accept it for what it is, And with every wrestling show, I don't try to judge them all by the same standard. I don't expect the same thing from every different show. Like if I'm watching ROH, I expect to see pure wrestling. If I'm watching Impact Wrestling, I expect to see Undead Realms and people getting shot. It's two different promotions, two different schools of thought, two different shows.
Yeah.
And a lot of people out there they want to see wrestling in one certain way with one certain presentation, and that's never been me. I've always been more of a melting pot kind of guy where, if I turn into a show and I don't get what I want, I get something different. I like different stuff, man. I think it's the point I'm getting to. And we can talk about the Bound for Glory stuff too, because I reviewed the show for 411, and I liked the show for what it was, although there were a couple curveballs thrown, which weren't entirely Impact's fault. You had, I guess Alex Shelley had some kind of injury or something going on where he couldn't compete, which, diminished that match a little bit for me. And then there's the stuff with Kylie Ray, which, it sucks. It's terrible, and I don't blame people for, if they want to be mad at Impact or whoever for that. We can't be mad at Kylie Ray because there's no reason to be. It's just, it is what it is. But they did what they could do. I don't know what else they could have done to really. I mean, the one thing I guess they could have done is if they had just decided earlier in the day that she wasn't going to show up. I mean, maybe we can build something else on the pre-show. I could see that. But it seems like they were thinking they really thought she was going to show up and be there. So in that case, I can't really blame them for that. It sucks, and they end up looking like idiots, and we'll be more likely to blame Impact than we are Kylie Ray. But I mean, they did the best they could, and for what it's worth, I thought Deanna and Su Yung had a pretty darn good match. So I mean, they did the best. The point I'm making is they did the best they could, and I don't know. It's not a great situation, but they kind of made chicken salad out of chicken excrement, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, it's you would think kind of in this era too that more people understand this type of stuff. I mean, especially the Kylie Ray situation. Like, I mean, that's something that, this is your biggest show of the year. I don't think you're just going into this expecting something like that. But even if you get it, like, it's not something where you're just like, oh, well, let's just start yelling at the promotion and all this, because it is such a bigger situation. And so it was unfortunate to see. But I thought Bound for Glory, I thought it was a pretty good show. Like you said, there was a lot of good stuff on there, even with the couple of switches that you had. Rich Swann wins the title. You had some pretty fun stuff, I thought, on that show. And I really thought overall, the build off of it into the next show, their first, Impact show after Bound for Glory, I thought they've had a couple, really good shows here back to back. And like we said, you offer some variety now with this wedding, and now you kind of get on this mystery tour of Who Shot Bravo there.
And I'm sure there'll be a lot of bumps in that road that will provide many moments of enjoyment and laughter and whatnot. So
yes.
I'm interested to see where it goes. Like I said, I think it's the same answer for every mystery storyline. I don't know what it is about Swoggle, but all I know is that there weren't people getting shot Impact when Swoggle wasn't there.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
I don't know. Ring Imp. He might be. I'm telling you, that's where I think it's going. But I've been wrong before about these things, so you just never know.
Well, we'll see. It should be, like you said, a fun ride to get there. I was thinking about some of the, anytime there's a wedding on wrestling, you always think about the best weddings.
There is one person. Hold on, I'm gonna cut you off. I'm sorry, because I just thought of something. I'm sorry. Larry Zonk had to put up with this all the time back in the day, so I'm gonna cut you off because there is one person we can rule out, and if you notice when the lights were out. If you're looking at the screen, you could see that Kiera Hogan, she was wearing some glow-in-the-dark gear. I don't know if you noticed that. She had some glow-in-the-dark stuff on her shoes and ankles and whatnot. Kiera Hogan did not move. So we know for sure that Kiera Hogan is the one person we can rule out. She didn't do it.
Well, what if she knew it was coming and decided, hey, I'm going to wear this, kind of throw off the scent, and maybe she knows who did it. We'll see. But a smart move on her part, nonetheless.
Hey, I'm just saying, we know she wasn't the Trigger Man.
That's right. Maybe she knew who the Trigger Man was. We'll find out. But I was thinking about the best weddings, and I'm like, there's really no contest, is there? Like, I think Savage and Elizabeth, like, that has to be at the very top. I can't think of anything else that's come close to that. Now, that's just, your traditional standpoint. Now, if you're talking about pure chaos, I guess, there are a lot that come to mind when it comes to, I guess, Stephanie and Test and some of these others. You remember, you had Uncle Elmer and Joyce, too, back in the day. So
Uncle Elmer and Joyce. I was a fan of the Kane and Lita wedding.
yes.
Mostly for the wardrobe choices, because Kane was really all about wearing the white. He comes down the white tuxedo, which is awesome, and Lita just goes right against him, wears the black wedding dress. Oh, chef's kiss right there. That's just good stuff. And then of course you had Trish Stratus coming out in the Maid of Honor outfit,
Yes.
which I think we all remember. I think if you saw that segment, you hear Trish Stratus Maid of Honor outfit, you remember that.
Yes, you do. And if you don't, you're probably, as you're listening to this, you're going back to, yes, check that out now for sure. But, so there's some of the weddings. If you're in a wedding mood, you can check
Teddy
out.
Long having a heart attack was also
that's right. I forgot about that.
Or no, it's an overdose on Viagra, wasn't it?
Was Al Wilson? I know he's passed away since now, but
Al Wilson was, there's the Al Wilson wedding with Dawn Marie, and I believe he's passed away in real life as well by this point. But I believe it was the honeymoon where he passed away while he was in bed with Dawn Marie. And, just some fantastic storytelling there. Let me tell you, just people gave a lot of credit to SmackDown back in that day, but it wasn't all SmackDown 6, man. You also had Al Wilson. So,
yes, that's
come on now.
SmackDown
Heyman didn't
7.
spin all gold at that point. There are a few misses here and there. And there's still some weddings to come up because, on AEW, we're still pimping this Kip Sabian, Penelope Ford wedding, and Rusev, the best man. So there's always going to be wrestling weddings as long as there's pro wrestling.
Many more weddings to come in the world.
For better or for worse.
Yes.
But I thought, I got some enjoyment out of this one because, like Father James Mitchell, great in his role. One of the most underappreciated managers of his time, I think. And when you're talking about spooky managers, kind of, that supernatural types guy, I think you talk about James Mitchell and Paul Bearer for that category. That's 1 and 2.
I agree. They're 1 and 2 without question. I guess, someone who I don't think shot Johnny Bravo was Thunder Rosa, who has been the. But then again, maybe she has.
She's been everywhere else. So,
maybe that's the swerve.
Everywhere else. And maybe she was the trigger man. We don't know.
Listen, maybe that's the swerve. Maybe all of this that's going on social media and all the rumors and her trolling everyone is all to lead to her being the culprit here. But that has been one of the big talking points throughout the week. But as we talked about before we started recording, that seems to be squashed now because you had the reports that Billy Corgan in the Q&A, I think some kind of fan Q&A or something, he said that she was locked up under contract until 2021 with the NWA, and of course everyone's been running with the reports that is she going to AEW, is she going to WWE? Well, she lost the belt to Serena Deeb, so that means she's going to WWE. That everyone has run wild with this, but Steve, it seems like we pretty much know that she's with the NWA at least for the next little while.
And maybe it's just a possibility that she lost the title to Serena Deeb for a storyline.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just doing an angle there. People lose championships all the time, don't they? We have title changes here and there, and that doesn't mean that somebody's leaving the company. And the NWA is in a tough situation right now with the COVID and everything going on, and they're kind of finding ways to kind of remain relevant. And there have been some people that have moved on, and I think they do have a nice little deal going with AEW where we've seen a number of their people pop up there, and AEW's been using that NWA Women's Championship to kind of bolster their own women's division, and that's kind of worked out well for everybody involved because NWA is getting that rub on that show. So I think people kind of jumped to conclusions a little too quickly on that one. Just because Thunder Rosa lost the title, that doesn't mean she's leading the company. That might just mean that maybe there's going to be a little feud with Thunder Rosa and Serena on the UWN show or wherever they're doing that on. Maybe it's going to lead something down the road for that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that Billy Corgan has Thunder Rosa under contract, and Thunder Rosa is a highly sought after commodity. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure WWE wants her, and I'm sure AEW wants her. I'm sure everybody else does. But if she ends up leaving, they're going to get something out of it.
I always find the WWE aspect of everything kind of interesting because, I get from a fan's perspective, you look at this and you're like, well, man, I mean, we're seeing what happened with Mia Yim on Raw here recently with the whatever the spot was with her convulsing and everything. And you're looking ahead and you're like, man, why would someone like Thunder Rosa want to go there and wind up being someone that's convulsing on the mat in the middle of a pretty bad angle when instead, she could do this or she could do that. And she has the Mission Pro thing. So it's like, they're not going to let her keep doing that company or anything or like all the different. And I get it, but I also think about it too. I'm like, I mean, the WWE, like it or not, it's still, that name is going to draw people because everyone thinks of WrestleMania. They think of all these other possibilities. And so I can understand why someone would want to go to WWE. The money is there. The structure.
The checks don't bounce.
Yes, the checks aren't bouncing. So I always find that, everybody kind of knocks WWE, and I get it from a product standpoint at times. But, when a worker is trying to choose where they want to go, I mean, WWE is going to be right there on the top of that list probably.
Absolutely, and although and we've also heard speculation in the past that they're interested in Thunder Rosa, but as a referee, which I don't understand. And they've done people before, like Drake Younger he eventually went to WWE, but as a referee. There have been other independent wrestlers who go there as a referee, which I mean that's fine, that's their choice. I've just always kind of wondered what WWE sees in certain people, like. What did they see when they're watching that CZW show with Drake Younger breaking light bulbs over his head? And what made them think, boy, that guy'd make a good referee? I mean, what the hell? I mean, I don't, that didn't really compute for me. And, Drake is a very active guy these days in his own ways. He's got his own unique perspective on life, and I think that's all I'll say about that. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm trying not to get political here, so shut up.
It's almost November. We're less than a week away. So if we're gonna get it in on a show, I feel like this is the show to get it in on. And then I guess I have to technically probably do it after on the next show too, but we'll only keep that to a couple seconds. But yeah, I guess it's if you see a guy breaking a light bulb over his head, it's like, well, if you can handle that, he can handle refereeing a singles match between Big E and Sheamus, I guess. So
yeah, I'm not sure that confused. I don't know. But I'm an outsider, so I don't have that galaxy brain like Vince McMahon does, where he sees how this all kind of fits together.
That's why they haven't hired you as a referee yet. So that's the way I see it, because I
got the body for it. I tell you that.
That's part of the job description. So I don't know, this whole Thunder Rosa thing, like I said, but I get why people have just ran with it, because like you said, she is one of the best, I think, in the world right now in terms of just you see her wrestle, and she's certainly one of the top talents. And then of course, if you're looking at AEW and you're an AEW fan, you're looking around at the women's division saying, okay, we've got a couple injuries now. We've still got, a situation where we're not really building up a lot of talent. We're putting them on Dark, which, by the way, I feel like I'm reviewing a pay-per-view every Tuesday night now, because Dark's getting to about the 2.5 hour mark.
I was glad to pass that baton to you when I heard that they're going like 2.5 hours every week. It's like, you know what? I mean, it's a fun little show. I just ain't got the time for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Remember back in the good old days when AEW Dark was like a little 40-minute show? You had little segments with Tony and Dasha, and Cody had a freaking interview, and you had a couple of nice little Dark matches. It was a nice little time. And now you're getting a pay-per-view every week. But, but you can't fault them at the same time, because they're giving a lot of people a lot of work. And a lot of the girls that you mentioned that are on that show, they're in that developmental phase where they need to work. I mean, maybe the Kylan Kings and Red Velvets of the world aren't quite ready for prime time yet. So that's how you get them ready.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of... the girl that Hirsch this week went against Serena Deeb. Ton of potential there. I mean, I think that match blew a lot of people's expectations out of the water, and world of potential with her. And I think that AEW has a number of girls there that could be something a couple years down the road, and that's why you put them on Dark right now.
Well, I'm teasing it now. I've got a column going on 411 early next week on the AEW women's division, so we'll see what everybody thinks about that, because I think there's some things they can be doing more of aside from just the Dark usage and everything. But at least they're giving them reps, and that's the way I look at it. It's the showtime may have went up ever since I started Dark. Every single week we've gotten more matches. The show's gotten longer, so I think
maybe WrestleMania length pretty soon. I'm telling you.
Yes, before you know it, we're gonna have a 2-hour pre-show for AEW Dark, and we're gonna feature like 8 matches on that in addition to the
Peter Avalon and Brent Cutler working an Iron Man match.
Well, that may not be bad. I thought they had the best match on AEW Dark this week. So if you're someone who hasn't watched AEW Dark yet, go back and watch it. I thought it was actually a pretty good show, even with many matches, because Layla Hirsch, like you said, she had a really good match with Hikaru Shida. So AEW Women's Division, we'll see what happens, but more thoughts on that.
They put Layla against. They put her against Shida and Serena Deeb right away. That tells you what they think of her. You know, they threw her from the frying pan right into the fire. So that tells you that they think there's something there.
Speaking of AEW, before we get into some WWE and a little Ring of Honor stuff, AEW Full Gear card, Steve, I think this is, we saw most of the card. I can't imagine them adding much more to it. I assume Best Friends, maybe Miro and Kip, probably going to be on there.
They'll probably do something on there, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, aside from that, like this card from top to bottom, I went back and looked. I mean, it's different because we're doing this without full crowd and such, but this just card on paper, I think this is probably one of the best cards they've had just from a pure, like, top match standpoint with all these matches they've got on here. When you talk about Moxley, Kingston, you've got Omega Page, you've got FTR Young Bucks, you've got Jericho MJF, you've got the Elite Deletion. You've got all these different matches, and of course, you knew I was going to get to this. On the buy-in, we've now got my man John Silver against Orange Cassidy. That in and of itself sells the pay-per-view to me.
When that's on the buy-in, that kind of tells you something right there, because you're talking about Orange Cassidy, one of the most over people in AEW, and we can talk about that feud with him and Cody, which I don't know if that did Orange a whole lot of favors, but he is going into this big match. He's got a new feud going with none other than your good friend of mine, Johnny Hungy.
Yes.
Oh, the highlights of being the Elite episodes. Probably one of the most popular people in the Dark Order at this point. Toss up for me with him and Anna Jay. I mean, that's pretty close.
Yeah.
They're great people, but when that's the buy-in, when that's the dark match, I mean, I'm telling you, oh man, it's loaded card.
It is. In Pro Wrestling Tees, I joked about it on Twitter that they keep finding ways to take my money, because we've gotten, I think, 2 new Johnny Hungy shirts out in the past week or so. We've gotten the actual Johnny Hungy shirt itself. They put out one, I think it's the silver is gold. They're just, I've already gotten the one, of course, with him and Alex Reynolds as the recruitment specialist. But,
oh, nice.
Oh, man, they're making me spend all this money on my guy here. But
we were talking about last night, we were talking about last night on the Dissecting Dynamite show, where the Dark Order not getting a lot of respect in the rankings. I mean, you take a look at the singles rankings. There's no Brody Lee.
No.
Women's rankings, no Anna Jay. Tag team rankings, no Silver and Reynolds, no Uno and Stu either. Like, what's going on here? What are they doing? A lot of disrespect being thrown towards the Dark Order, who have been carrying that being the lead show. Let's be honest. It's not really being the lead. It's being the Dark Order at this point, right?
Yes, it is. That's what I love about it, because they're giving them that platform. Because it's like, remember where this faction started? Like when they first started, and you're thinking about,
everybody, we all buried that stuff when I started. It is the drizzling shits.
It was
when
terrible.
When it first started out, but they turned it around, man. They turned it around. They made it work. That's what you gotta do sometimes. That's one of the things I give AEW credit for, where they're not so quick to give up on somebody. Like if you take a look, I'm not trying to bury WWE. Maybe I'm trying to bury WWE, but man, the retribution thing.
Yeah.
With with Ali and with all these guys, and Vince was all about it first, and then all of a sudden Vince wasn't all about it, and now they're getting buried.
Yeah, they're
a joke now. They're just getting jobbed out left and right. It's kind of, you got Mia Yim doing her Caesar angle, where the hell she's doing, but I had hope for when I think Ali is a great talent. He's a good talker too, so I think he could do something, but they're not doing him any favors with this. It's a rough situation where they built this retribution thing up. They just bury it right away. Whereas, with the Dark Order, it kind of sucked early on, but AEW just kind of let it keep going.
Yeah,
they let them kind of find themselves and found a way to make it work, and now it's working.
What do you know? They're finding themselves on a YouTube show, and meanwhile, WWE's taking away every talent's YouTube, Twitch, everything as much as they can. So,
that's another issue. Yeah, record profits, and yet we can't let these guys do frickin' Twitch and YouTube shows. Oh boy, yeah. Oh man, God, damn.
some limitations there to work with in WWE that maybe you don't have in AEW for sure. Speaking of which, Survivor Series, it is going to be a celebration of The Undertaker, but it is also going to be another year of champion versus champion, and it's interesting because I think, and I've heard people talk about this, because knowing right now, I mean, Roman Reigns and Randy Orton are not losing the titles before we get to Survivor Series.
No, they're not.
In no way.
They shouldn't either. They
Right.
should not.
But, like, that's a tricky thing to do, I think, right now, because, and that's where the problem comes in, and I think we've said this a lot with WWE. You put yourself in this situation where you have this match. Now, if I had to bet right now, all the money in the world, I would bet that there's going to be some screwy finish, or you're going to get something that's not satisfying whatsoever. But the fact is, you book this match, and you have no choice but to, like, go through with it. This is a weird thing to me, because I'm like, what can you really do knowing where these two characters are at right now, especially Roman Reigns? I mean, we've seen him on another level, but you put him now in this match with Randy Orton, like, what's your out here? I mean, I know that it's WWE. They've done this many times before. They'll find a way out of it, but I don't know, man. I just think you put yourself in a situation with some of these champion versus champion matches where it's interesting, but I'd be fine just going back to the full Survivor Series format, just every match elimination style, and let's just do that.
It's a thing that's kind of bothered me for a couple of years now. I like the idea that the Survivor Series is brand versus brand. I think it's a nice idea. You can have Team Raw versus Team SmackDown. You can have all champions going at it. I think that's a good idea. I'm all about that. The problem is, this is where they kind of lose me, is that they do the whole WWE Raw SmackDown draft about a month before a show. So I have no time to get used to these people being on Raw or SmackDown. You're running all these Team Raw matches, all these qualifying matches to be on Survivor Series team, and most of these guys were on SmackDown a couple weeks ago. How am I supposed to be emotionally invested in that?
Yeah,
I'm not, because these guys were just on SmackDown last week. I mean, why would I care? I don't get it. I don't understand. But it's one of those things. It's timing. Timing is the whole issue here. If they could figure out a way to put that Raw SmackDown draft somewhere other than like a month before Survivor Series, it'd work a lot better.
Well, and the thing is like, if someone right now put in front of me and said, all right, you have to answer 15 Raw or SmackDown superstars correctly on what brand they're actually on,
I could get 50-50.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd be lucky to get 7 probably, because like there's no, like, you can't keep up with this even when they do the draft. Like, it's, the Otis thing. Wasn't Otis like or Tucker? Like, I don't even know. I can't even keep up anymore. But like, you've had people appear on these shows so many times before, and we know probably in 2 months there's going to be people all over the place. Like, there's going to be people on different shows, and you're not going to know what brand they're on. So I'm with you. It's like, what the Survivor Series, I know you're trying to push it, you have that, but it's like, I don't know, is there a better way to do this draft every year, just to where it's not right there? And as you said, all of a sudden you're wearing your blue shirts and red shirts, and you've been on the show for 1 week, so it's like, go me, I guess.
Who cares?
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, look, the card will be good. Like, I think you'll look at it on paper and say, oh, okay, well, yes, Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton, that could be good. I mean, Asuka versus Sasha Banks, that could be good. New Day versus Street Profits, all for it. But it's just like, I don't know. I feel like you're also going to get some non-finishes in some of these. That's just my guess, based on past history. And I don't know. I'm not trying to knock WWE, because I think WWE, if you consumed WWE in just a pay-per-view form, or just watch like Roman Reigns or Sasha or Bayley, and that's not to knock anyone else. It's like, if you just watch the top stuff, hey, that's great. But I mean, that 3 hours of Raw every week, I just don't know how some people do it, because it's really hard for me to watch the 3 hours of Raw every week, just based on what we know. And Big E pointed this out too. He did an interview with someone. I think it was one of the podcasts on YouTube.
I think it's Fightful. Did Fightful get him?
Maybe it was, but he said something like, the difference between SmackDown and Raw is that on SmackDown, it's a much tighter show. You've only got 2 hours. He said, I don't have to be on TV every week. I don't have to wrestle every week. But on Raw, it's like, well, we got to have a 2-segment Big E match just because we got to fill this time. And it's like every single week. So I understand that. Like, I agree. Like, that's the problem is, and we've been saying this for years now with the 3-hour Raws. I mean, I get it. This is nothing new, but man, there's just so many limitations when it comes to that show. And when you're trying to have stuff like Retribution and yet you're still doing what you're doing with them, it's just hard to connect, and it's hard to stay invested in that show every single week for 3 hours.
And then another issue of Survivor Series, the show itself, is that you might recall last year. Remember when NXT was involved in that show last year?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember they had the NXT champion and the North American champion and women's champion.
Keith Lee looked great.
They all got involved and whatnot, and they dominated that show actually. And they're nowhere to be seen this year. And my good buddy Greg DeMarco had a great article on Chairshot defending it, and I don't disagree. I do not disagree with Greg. I'm okay with NXT not being involved, but it's also one of those things where it's like if you're a fan, you're sitting there watching this stuff, aren't you kind of wondering where's NXT? Why aren't they involved in Survivor Series?
And I haven't read Greg's article, but one of the things I would think has to be part of the thinking, and this just may be me trying to find an excuse for him when they've probably done a lot of other stuff that ignores some of this, but is it the mixing of the brands, like knowing that you've had some of the, I guess, the outbreak, quote unquote, that they've been using with like at the PC and everything?
Well, that's probably the actual answer.
I was going to say
the actual answer.
I wonder if that's
the freaking performance center has become a COVID hotbed because certain people there that can't wear a mask and have to be assholes and get everybody sick. That's the actual answer. But, if you're sitting at home, you don't know that.
Exactly, right. And it's not like that's one thing I will knock WWE for. They don't do a great job of explaining stuff, and they're not one to come out and say, hey, this is the reason why, if it's going to make them look bad in any scenario. So, I don't know. It's I would love to see, like you said, more NXT, because that just, as we say this now, it's like, NXT is not really much different from Raw and SmackDown. Like, you have a show in USA, like you're the show going up. You've started this war against AEW, even though you don't want to say that. It's just like, I don't know. You get even more exposure. You give some of these talents, but again, I have a feeling that's a big reason.
I think we saw this week what NXT needs to do to defeat AEW in the ratings every week, other than actually produce a good show. That always helps. But I think if they could trot out a different WCW name for a show every single week, yes. I think that would help. Because that's when that works. The Great American Bash worked. Halloween Havoc worked. You gotta we gotta have Starrcade in December, don't we? Don't we gotta do Starrcade?
Yeah, I say bring it all. Like do as many theme shows as you can. I wish they would. I mean, because we saw like AEW did that. They had Bash at the Beach. Like they had all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that's when they noticed. That's when WWE noticed that they better get some of those WWE trademarks when they did the Bash at the Beach stuff. Yeah. Like, oh shit.
a lot of articles coming out that next week. WWE has filed for 8 new trademarks, and they're all WCW.
Oh yeah, all old WCW stuff. That's what's gonna happen, and we'll see NXT Dixie Dynamite. And the stuff that's gonna happen. But. I mean, and I think Shotzi Blackheart should host the show more often too. I think that would also help.
That would be a nice one for sure, I think. But yeah, and that's the thing is like, I know everyone, like we talk about WWE and people are up and down with it. I mean, you've got people, that watch every show religiously. You've got others who just can't get into it aside from maybe some of the stuff, like I said, with Reigns. I mean, that stuff is must watch right now. But aside from that, like, I mean, NXT, they're still doing a good job with NXT. Like, you can't knock it. And that's why I just wish so much that,
especially with the COVID outbreaks, it's tough to get enough talent in the building.
Exactly. It's not easy. And maybe, if you do it on a different night, you get a little different mojo, because I would love to be able to watch actually NXT and AEW live each and every week without, trying to do the 2-screen thing and all that. But it's just, I don't know. I don't know. I hate to knock on WWE at times, but because they do the thing, that's what frustrates me. It's like WWE does some things so well, and we're seeing that with like the Reigns thing. Like, I never in a million years imagined that they would be able to nail this Reigns thing the way that they have. And
to the point where you wish they did like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's like you never would have guessed that they would be able to pull this off as effectively as they had thus far. And that's why I get a little frustrated with the Survivor Series thing. I'm like, oh, please don't let this be a step back. Like, don't do something stupid and put this in a situation where he's like a different character, or you got something and I don't know. I just think there's some ways that could go wrong on that. But I mean, that's what frustrates you. It's like you see all these things they could do well, but it's like they have so much TV time each and every week that some of the stuff just is not good.
So how do they handle the whole Reigns and Orton match? Like, how do you handle that on TV?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't have Roman Reigns being like he's rallying behind SmackDown. Yeah, I mean, you can't rallying. How you do that? Do you have an answer for that?
I would have liked the idea of putting Reigns as the captain of the SmackDown team and basically have him enter that and be like a Bad News Brown type, where he's just like, he goes into the match, he like just kicks a couple people's ass, like he just goes out there and just destroys some of the other people on the other team, and then he just walks out. Like, I'm done. Like, there's no reason for me to be here. I wish they could have set that up, but again, because they have to do the champion versus champion thing, they kind of put themselves in a corner where they couldn't do that. I feel like for his character right now, that would have served him much better, knowing that he wanted no part of anyone, put him on a team, and then just basically have him either destroy everyone and then have him destroy his own team, or just have him walk out after he, just destroys some of the people on the other side, I guess.
And we've seen him change the title right before Survivor Series, both involving Brock Lesnar opponents, because I think Brock won to wrestle AJ Styles one year. Yeah. And Brock won to wrestle Daniel Bryan one year. And I think that's what happened there. And they're both fantastic matches. Yeah. So that all worked out. But at this point, I cannot see taking the title off either of those guys for one match.
In hindsight, in hindsight, what I think, if you should have, maybe with Orton and McIntyre, you should have maybe had Orton win that first match between those two, and then maybe build.
Oh, especially for that feud.
Yeah,
because they booked that ass backwards.
Yes,
because they had Randy Orton lose a couple of matches. They had Randy Orton he lost to one match due to a bunch of people interfering on Drew McIntyre's behalf, and it did not help Drew McIntyre out at all. To be honest with you,
I thought the ambulance match was like it. I was like, okay, Drew McIntyre just sent this guy in an ambulance. You had all those guys come back, all the legends, and I'm like, this thing's over. Like, there's no way they're going to drag this out. But then I thought,
Orton killed them all off the next night.
Exactly. It's like, well, then you think about it, and you're like, oh, well, they've got to get to Hell in a Cell now. Well, you can't get a program heated up that fast to get to Hell in a Cell, so you got to get one more match out of it. So
that's the problem. That's the problem with the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view in general.
Yeah,
because we're just. I just yearn for back in the day when Hell in a Cell matches were kind of organic.
Yeah. Where
feuds build up to the point where it's like, okay, now we have to have Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
And now it's just a freaking yearly show where, well, okay, these guys are champions. They need some challengers. Or, okay, let's put them in the cell. Yeah. We don't care. Why not?
Well, I will give them credit. I thought the 3 that they had this year, that's just crazy for me to say, like they had 3 on the same show, but they were all different. So I think that at least helped because you did.
I think that's also an issue where you have 3 on the same show. I mean, Lockdown worked for TNA after a while. I mean, I thought TNA Lockdown was a crazy idea at first. A whole show with cage matches, daddy, like Dusty Rhodes would say. But it actually did work after a little while. But I think Hell in a Cell is one of those things that should be busted out for a special occasion. Yeah. But I guess I'm stuck in that 1985 thinking where, cage matches are a big deal. Yeah.
Well,
maybe I'm a little too old for this. I don't know.
Shorter attention span. We're trying to get all the gimmick matches we can to keep people involved, but clearly,
and I like the Bayley Sasha Banks feud, for God's sakes. Why is their first match in Hell in a Cell? What are we doing? What are we doing here? I mean, I'm sure it is a good match, but at the same time, like, what the hell? Where do you go from there?
Well, and that's the thing, too. I guess the different eras, like we think about it. I mean, and I don't know what... I mean, I assume, like, the Attitude Era, you started having all these matches every week between the stars, but, like, you think back to, like, the late 80s and everything, where it's like, oh, my God, we're building 6 months just to get to Hogan versus Perfect, and, like, it's just... I mean, it's so much different now, and I don't know. There's some people... That's why I get, like, people have different tastes, and there have been people that have still been able to kind of hang on to WWE with every single show, and... watch it like they always have, but I can understand also being on the other side and saying, man, it's so much different than it used to be because you have basically the same feud going on every single, like you see the same matches. What was it? The Street Profits and Angel Garza and Andrade. I think they fought 50 times this summer on Raw. Yeah. It's just a ton. So that goes back to what Big E said. I'm always going to believe
And
in
they're
Big
all
E.
good performers. They're all good wrestlers too, dude. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, it's like
Yeah.
at a certain point, it's like, Jesus Christ. Can we do something else with these guys? My God.
It takes away the specialty of it for sure. But okay, I promise this was all not about bashing WWE. But I don't know. There's just I'd like
We
to.
can't help it.
I mean, it is what it is right now, as you said. It's just
Oh.
we're not the only ones. Trust me. There's a lot of other people. If you click up social media, you'll find it. But let's talk about something.
We love Roman Reigns, especially with with his shirt off, right?
I was gonna say, like Roman Reigns, Bayley, Sasha, the Big E thing I'm interested in. Like, there's a lot of still good stuff.
Push Big E to the moon.
Yeah.
Push him to the moon. Give him the belt at WrestleMania. Come on. I don't care which belt it is. Give him some belt at WrestleMania.
I was going to ask you that. Is that what are we getting to? If we don't get Roman and The Rock, which is I just think it's not going to happen. There's no chance. But
I wish it would because
I do too.
Oh God, that would be fucking awesome. But if it's not The Rock, Roman Reigns and Big E at WrestleMania, sign me up.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
I would be all for that. Yeah, for sure.
Big E needs to win the Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I'll say it right now. Big E needs to win the Royal Rumble and challenge somebody, whether it's the SmackDown champion or Raw champion, whoever it is. Yeah. Big E, do it.
And of course, they've got the Miz too now with the briefcase, and it's like, when do you actually see the Miz?
Oh
like,
God,
this thing's gonna be forever. So
that Money in the Bank briefcase, don't get me. I'm gonna get started because that fucking briefcase. You would think that would build people up. No, everybody gets that briefcase gets jobbed out. Everybody, unless you win that shit in the same night or within a week or whatever, you get jobbed out and jobbed out and jobbed out until the point where it's like, oh well, we might as well let this guy cash in. Or good God, it's just it's a bad tool. I don't like it. And when you got the Otis, it fell into Otis's hands. I like Otis. I think he's a good guy, good wrestler. But does anybody think that he was going to beat Roman Reigns or The Fiend or Braun Strowman or anybody else there? No. Wasn't going to happen. Now The Miz has it. And maybe The Miz will cash in on Randy Orton like this fucking 2010 again?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. That's the best we can do. That's the best we can do.
They're trying to promote it as though that's a good thing. I don't know if that's a good thing.
Jesus Christ, it's terrible.
But like you said, like the next night on Raw, like they came back out and he lost. Miz lost his first match in 4 minutes to Drew McIntyre.
Exactly.
Like,
they did not they made sure we knew that Miz was not worth a fucking shit.
Oh gosh. Well, this is.
I'm cursing now. That's all right though, because that's where this briefcase gimmick gets me. Because Jesus Christ, they just any time a person gets a briefcase like Daniel Bryan. Remember when Daniel Bryan won the Money in the Bank match in 2010?
Yeah.
And everybody thought, I think it's 2011, whatever, but like, oh, they're pushing Daniel Bryan. And he got jobbed out for the next 6 months until he finally cashed in on Big Show after a main event match.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ. What are we doing here?
Well, it's funny.
Why are we still doing this shit all these years? What are we doing?
It's so funny.
This is why people don't get built. This is why we don't have legends now. Why every legend has come from fucking 1990. Jesus Christ.
We started this episode with the absurdity of the wedding angle.
I'm
someone getting shot.
About this time about the wedding angle.
That's what I was going to say.
I like the wedding angle. I thought that was good, but this Money in the Bank briefcase booking has me more pissed off than that by a long shot.
Oh,
Jesus.
God, we have covered such a wide range here, starting with that wedding and getting to this with some of the just nonsensical things you see. This is a pro wrestling podcast right here. Everything we've just covered, what a broad spectrum. And then we're not even done, because quickly we're going to get into Ring of Honor, because what a difference, right?
Pure
we're going
wrestling.
from all this to actual wrestling. Hey.
I like it.
We are finally to the finals of the Pure Tournament. That's going to be fun. You've been reviewing all these shows. What have you thought about this whole thing? I think it's been pretty fun to watch all these matches. And now we've got the final set up where you've got Tracy Williams versus Jonathan Gresham.
And I'll be honest with you. I took on the ROH recapping duty after Larry Zonka passed away. And there have been a couple years where I hadn't really kept up with Ring of Honor, so
Yeah.
I was not familiar with some of the names. I was familiar with Jay Lethal, obviously, and some of the longer tenured people there. But folks like Jonathan Gresham and Hot Sauce Tracy Williams had kind of slipped under my radar, so I was not really in tune with. I hadn't seen them a lot, so I saw them a little bit on the best of shows that ROH did from time to for the past few months there, and I am very impressed with both individuals. Jonathan Gresham, a great wrestler. Tracy Williams, also a great wrestler. So I'm pretty excited about this match. I know they're trying to build up the Lethal Gresham match, and guess what? Tracy Williams got the upset there. So sad, too bad.
Yep.
Not like that the AEW match where we get Kenny Omega and Adam Page. But we all knew that tournament was going to lead to that, and that's good. We like that. But at the same time, over here in ROH, we have a little change of plans. It's not Lethal versus Gresham again. We got Gresham and Hot Sauce. I like that. That's good. And I think it'll be a fantastic match. Oh, man. It's going to be good to watch. Tracy Williams has been a joy. Trained in Chikara, of course. Was one of the ants. All his ants doing good stuff nowadays.
They are.
It's amazing. Amazing how all his ants are breaking out. But Hot Sauce been looking good. That match with Tracy Williams and Fred Yehai, oh man, that was fantastic. And it's gonna be a great show. I'm looking forward to seeing it this weekend at some point. It's gonna be a good time. And if I had to pick a winner, I mean, you know what? I mean, they've been building this whole thing where you think Gresham wins it, so I'm gonna go with Hot Sauce. I think Tracy Williams pulls off the upset. I think that's what happens there. Although, it might just be Jonathan Gresham possibly cheating a little bit. He might need to throw an unsanctioned punch just to get the advantage to do some octopus hold or something. But it's gonna be interesting to see.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could see them doing that because, like you said, it's almost like every time you think that they're going this way, I could see Tracy Williams winning. But we'll see what happens. If you want to catch up on that, still time. Go catch up on it for the finals. It's been a fun and easy watch. Like I said, if you just love wrestling, I mean, that's this tournament. It is. I mean, you know what you're getting.
Classic professional wrestling.
Yeah, that's what you're getting. All right, I said we were going to be done with that, but real quickly, I forgot this story came down this afternoon, and I can't believe we didn't bring this up a few minutes ago. But WWE has announced the Vince McMahon docuseries on Netflix. How great is this going to be, or better yet, how sort of terrible is this going to be from an actual reality standpoint?
Here's my question. Yeah, okay, yeah, I kind of heard about this. Here's my question: who is producing this? Is it WWE?
I think no. So Bill Simmons is one of the executive producers of this.
Oh.
And so it's going to be like, and WWE Studios. So like they're part of.
Okay, well, if WWE's involved, it's going to be a bunch of bullshit. Okay,
so
let's be honest. Okay,
hold on. There's something here. It is. Is it going to be the guy who did the Firefest documentary? The director. Apparently, he's going to be helping with the project too.
It'll probably be entertaining. I'm sure.
Well, and it's apparently it says that it's going to be one of Netflix's highest budgeting docuseries ever. So they're really going to go all out for this, apparently.
But I'm still telling you, if WWE has any involvement in this, it's going to be complete bullshit.
Oh my gosh!
Come on now!
I can't wait to hear the WCW stuff. Like how, like this story is like going to inflate to the nth degree. I think in this docuseries, like, oh yeah, I was doing all this and WCW and they stole this and oh man, that's
why you watch Dark Side of the Ring, because there's not that involvement.
Oh gosh!
Exactly. You know,
true.
There's outside people speaking on this stuff. That's why you go to Dark Side of the Ring. I mean, I'm sure it'll be an entertaining watch because that Firefest documentary is very good, and Bill Simmons has been involved in some very good stuff. So I'm sure it'll be an entertaining piece of business, but it'll also be 100% bullshit.
Who am I kidding? I'll watch the whole thing.
We'll watch it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I will watch it, but I will also keep in mind that it's not exactly. It's like Donald Trump on Fox News. Oh, I'm doing more political stuff. Oh, goddamn.
Well, listen, there's no better way to stop this podcast because, as we said, we had to get into political stuff right before the election. So what do you know? We built this up perfectly, and what better way than to end things with Vince McMahon and Donald Trump? What an episode of the podcast here. But Steve, before we wrap up, as you said, you've got lots of stuff over at 411 Chair Shot. You're doing all kinds of stuff. Let everybody know where they can find all of your great work.
There's a lot of great work going on. I mean, I don't like putting myself over, so I will be honest. I think 50% of my stuff is pretty good.
Yes.
It's all right. And then there's some stuff that's not so good, but, maybe you'll disagree with me. That's all I can say about that. Typical writer, we're all very, us writers are all very, we don't have very high self-esteem.
No.
This group. Yeah, it's tough.
That's all right. That's okay. We'll put the links to all Steve's stuff in the show notes. That way,
yeah, it's gonna be good.
You can judge
and
for yourself.
I gotta tell you, I'm gonna close with this line again, like I did on the Dissecting Dynamite show there. And I'm just gonna tell you right now, my good sir, you know that man from Nashville, Italy. You know him. And if I hear one more Tracy Sucks chant, I'm telling you, everybody dies.
There you go. Oh, what a perfect way. There it is. Steve Cook, the one and only. Steve, as always, I enjoy it. Next time, we're going to have another good vent. And this is becoming quite a show here when we have you on. So we always appreciate it. Thank you, my friend.
Johnny Hungy.
Thanks again to Steve Cook for joining us here on the podcast. And again, just a very entertaining discussion with Steve. We had a lot of fun with that one, as you could tell. And be sure to check out all of his great work. We'll put the link to all of that in the show notes where you can find his work on 411 Mania. And as always, we'll also have the link to the GoFundMe for Larry Zonka's family. So be sure to check that out as well and continue to share that if you can. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, any podcast app you use, just search for 411 on wrestling. That way you can subscribe and catch all the episodes that we have coming up here on the podcast with some very fun things that we have in the works. We're really kind of playing around with the format a bit, seeing what we enjoy. We've also got some other ideas, but we have a lot of fun stuff planned here for the podcast, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of it. And for everything else, 411mania.com. Check out all of the great work that we have going on over there. Of course, our weekly written reviews for all the big shows, Raw, SmackDown, Impact, AEW, you name it. We've got all the great reviews over there and live coverage, so you can check out everything going on at 411mania.com. Lots of columns as well. As I teased, I've got a column coming up on AEW in the women's division and some other things also going on over at 411mania. And as we continue to push as well, the YouTube channel, our subscribers going up quite a bit now with a lot of different stuff we're adding to our YouTube channel. Of course, Dissecting Dynamite. That is our weekly post-show for AEW Dynamite. Right after the show goes off the air, you can check out Andy Perez and his guest host there, which Steve was the most recent one. You can check that out on the 411 YouTube channel. Wrestle Takes Mania, the new show as well, with the guys on there. You can check out on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe everywhere you can to keep up with everything we have going on at 411 Mania. So thanks as always for listening to the podcast. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you next time here on the 411 on Wrestling Podcast.